I am going through all the perks, ammo mods, and field upgrades, testing every single base item with all 6 augments to figure out which ones are working, not working, which are the best options for you, what's busted, and what's overpowered for whatever type of gameplay that it is that you're looking for. Now, the next stop on our journey is VULTURE AID, which was released in Season 1 Reloaded. In today's video, we're going to learn which of those 2 gases are going to be the best ones for you for Fetid upgrade and Smell of Death. Then we're going to put the Suppressor against Carrion Luggage to figure out which one gives us more salvage. But lastly, you're going to learn so much about the game's mechanics and how VULTURE AID just as a perk works in this game. All of the stats, analytics, and information is actually currently up on our Zombies wiki. You can find that at www.zombiesinfohub.com. It's also going to be down in the comment section as well as the description to be able to find any information and stats about any of this stuff. I would love you guys' feedback on that wiki as well. I'm always trying to improve it. But with all of this being said, guys, let's just get right into today's video. All right, guys, so before we get into talking about VULTURE AID as a perk and all of its augments, I must give a disclaimer. Really quickly, you guys can definitely use any of those timestamps down below to help skip through to whichever section that you want to. Now, it's always with my stats and analytical videos like this, I'm going to talk about the augments that are easiest first, and then we're going to deep dive into all the rest of the stuff and it gets the country order that makes kind of really good sense for you guys and it keeps it also entertaining. Just getting into VULTURE AID as a base perk first, how much loot do we get without VULTURE AID on? And so that drop percentage without VULTURE AID on is about 10 to 11% of zombies that you kill drops loot in some shape or form, whether it's tactical support or whatever the case is, about 10% of them. So the bonus that we get is an additional 10%. So we get a total drop percentage of about 20% from all enemies drops loot, which is really good with just the base perk. I mean, literally you get double the loot drops. So knowing that the new drop percentage is about 20%, my question was, well, what percentage of drops are essence and ammo of that extra drops? So first for essence has the 20% increase to essence per enemy average, which just means that without VULTURE AID, there's about 125 essence per enemy. Now that's also including when we get into, now we can tell that because without the perk on, we get an average of about 125 essence per enemy. Now that's where obviously like we can have bonus points that we get as well as double points and even down to perk essence that you get from the loose change on the perks. But taking the perk essence out, taking the bonus points out, leaving the double points in, we get an average of about 125 essence without this perk on altogether. So it is a major increase of being able to go from 125 essence per enemies all the way down to about 151 essence per enemy, which is huge. But does that actually increase your chance after punching any earlier? We're going to get into that in just a second. I want to talk about the ammo drops first. Then we have that every 11 enemies drop ammo on average. Enemies without VULTURE AID don't drop ammo at all, other than the specials and elites. Every time that they spawn, they will always drop 1 or 2 ammo packs per special or elite. And then also that ammo refills your reserve ammo by about 30 or 33% of your mag size. So what that means is while testing, I have 45 rounds in a magazine and I got 15 rounds in that magazine, which is exactly 15 divided by 45, exactly 0.33333, I'm repeating. However, when I pack-a-punched that weapon, it got 90 rounds, but I was getting back 27, meaning that I was getting exactly 0.3. So 1/3 on average. So 30 to 33% repeating. And it's actually consistent across all weapons like that, where one of them you get 33%, the other you get 30% when you pack a punch. So as I stated before, how does this allow you to upgrade your weapon? It actually doesn't make a huge difference in upgrading your weapon, especially if you have to wait to buy the perk, because you have to buy the perk, you have to buy the doors, you have to do all these different things before you finally are able to buy the perk. If you're on Citadel Day more, you're probably getting around round 8-ish. And by that point in time, you've already gotten your regular amount of essence. So it doesn't make any huge difference. If you spawn in with it, then we can talk about, what that might do. But on average, that extra 20% of essence per enemy doesn't actually do much. And so even though you get more drops per enemy and more essence per enemy and that higher drop chance, you're still pack-a-punching at on average at round 7, round 11, round 16 for all 3 of those pack-a-punches. If you're just kind of mid-maxing and doing strictly just getting enough essence to be able to pack-a-punch and you spawn in with all your perks already. What I also want to briefly discuss is that getting extra essence drops and extra ammo drops did not take away from the extra percentage that we were already getting. So for instance, if we were already getting around 9, 22, and 56 for tacticals, lethals, and armor, when we got ammo and essence drops, additionally, it stayed pretty much the same, 6, 22, and 57, which is right around the same exact numbers. They just only added on ammo. So there's a lot of confusion in the community right now about whether or not Vulture Aid is reducing the amount of drops that you're getting and replacing those drops with ammo and essence, but it's actually not doing that. So I hope that kind of clears that up because there has been a lot of questions about that. This is stacking on top of what you're already getting at a base just in the game. It's not reducing the amount of armor that you're getting. It's not reducing the amount of anything else that you're getting. So I hope that clears that up for you guys. So for essence, again, if you don't get Vulture Aid until about round 5 or 6, you don't really see much of a difference. But once you do, this orange line here is without Vulture Aid. And you can see that that's right around 100 to 200 essence per enemy earned. And then with Vulture Aid, you have significant differences in the amount of essence that you can earn per enemy, especially per round. And you see it, most of it comes in those middle rounds. I didn't get the chance to test all the way up to like round 55 because I think for one of these tests, I could only get up to round 23 and then the game crashed. And so without it, for time's sake, I didn't want to have to like go back and try and do that entire thing all over again because I had to do this about 20 different times for all these different stats. And then you can also see here for drops per enemy, you get significant better drops per enemy as well. And you also see it doesn't really drop off as well. That's one really good thing about the game is that the amount of drops that you get don't really drop off as you go into higher rounds. So we did talk a lot about Vulture Aid as a base perk because there was so much information that I need to get to you guys to just help you understand round and how everything works. But now let's get to talking about some of the easier augments first before we dive into the deeper ones. And I want to start off with Condor's Reach. Now, Condor's Reach allows you to auto pick up loot from much further away. And so my obviously question is, what is that extended distance? But also, what is the current distance? So the extended distance is 3.5 meters. So if you are 3.5 meters from any item at all that you can auto loot, then you'll pick it up. The current distance is you literally have to be standing on top of that item in order to pick it up. The speed that you run does not affect this. The size of the loot does not matter. It is always going to be 3.5 meters away. And one other thing that I love is that you can also pick up the stuff through walls and barriers as well. This augment is great for you to be able to get extra loot that you probably would not otherwise be able to get because there's so many different zombies around. Up next, I want to talk about Parting Gift. Now, I know that there's multiple different wonder weapons and things like that, and you guys probably want to know how it all works. For the most part, the easiest thing and biggest thing to be able to test is like the ray gun, for instance. So how much extra ammo does this do? Is there a drop chance, or does regular ammo actually give ammo to wonder weapons? Well, I was hoping that there would be like a drop chance of like wonder weapon ammo dropping. I figured that would be really cool, but I guess Treyarch really just doesn't love me, care about me, because I would love to see wonder weapon ammo drop on the ground. Treyarch, if you're listening, that'd be really cool. But no, it does not drop any extra ammo. It actually just drops the same amount of ammo that you get from base Vulture Aid. It just gives your wonder weapons more ammo. For the ray gun, beforehand you were getting 2 rounds back per ammo drop, but now it gets you back 16. I'm not sure how it works with like the jet gun and the swords. That's something that you guys let me know in the comment section down below. I really want to be able to get this video out to you guys, but I don't believe that it drops ammo for the jet gun and the swords. I was hoping that it might recharge its ultimates, but I do know that I didn't see any recharging of ultimates whenever I did have it on, and I was just kind of playing around. As far as those tests, I didn't get anything crazy. And then the beam smasher, I couldn't get the beam smasher out of the box for like 3 different tries, and I ended up losing all of my gobble gums trying to get the beam smash out of the box. So I couldn't get the beam smash out of the box. So for those of you who are testing it, let me know, please, and let us know in the comment section down below if parting gift, how it works with the Beam Smasher, because I don't have any more gobble gums to just pull out of the box. And also then going in and building it up, that was a whole lot of effort. I didn't want to have to do that. And then up next, is this worth it for higher rounds? I think for the ray gun, this is worth it for the high rounds. Those ammo drops drop so often right in front of you, especially if you're just shooting right down at your feet as those enemies are running to you. So you should really never run out of ammo. But if you are doing higher rounds, you might have better luck with like Fetid upgrade to fill up your charge upgrade or other things like that. So I think that it is a great augment to have for higher rounds, but let's just get into some of those other augments next. So Picky Eater, this is not really too difficult to explain, and without testing literally every single tactical in the game, every lethal and every support equipment, I just decided, well, you know what? Let's just test a few, some of the ones that most people use, and I believe that most people use Molotovs and shock sticks. I think some people use Casimirs as well, so I did some Casimirs, and then thermal grenades are also really good, especially for abominations. Picky Eater on death, zombies have a higher chance of dropping your current equipment. I think this is phenomenal. Everybody can see the huge increase to how much their equipment actually drops. Everybody's talking about it, and it is super overpowered. Well, it's actually Treyarch. It's not overpowered at all. It works just as it's supposed to, as it's intended. But anyway, my question is obviously, what is that chance? Obviously, it varies depending on the equipment, on how often it will drop. Whenever I actually go and test all of the different tacticals and lethals to play with them and talk about like damage and things like that in those videos, I'll break that down much more at that point. But as for time's sake, it just varies depending on that. But it seems to drop at least 5 times as much as it would have prior. So one of the things that I noticed, for instance, like Molotovs, without the augment, every 200 enemies, it would drop a Molotov without the augment. However, with the augment on, every 39 enemies, it would drop Molotovs. This seems to be about a 5 times or 500% increase. And then when we talk about shock sticks, out of 1185 enemies, you get 3 shock sticks without the augment. But with the augment, you get about 15 drops for 494. So on average, this is about 15 or 5 times as much. What does that mean? Like for like Casimirs or monkey bombs that don't drop as often, you could literally go 2 whole games without seeing a Casimir or a monkey bomb drop. If you only get 1 Casimir every 2 rounds or every 2 games that you play, if it has a 500% chance to drop more often, that means that it's going to drop 5 Casimirs across 2 games. So you should get about 1 or 2.5 Casimirs per 2 games, maybe 3, something like that. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Now with that, I did do a little bit of testing. Again, the game crashes on me so much. And if you guys are having issues with the game crashing, please let me know in the comment section, because it has been literally a pain testing this stuff, because you have to test with so many different, and Crimea River, right? Crimea River. And so my other question is this stacked on top of the current drop chance, or does it replace current drops? Once again, this is because a lot of people in the community have been saying that when they have Picky Eater on, they're not getting as much ammo drops, they're not getting as much scrap drops and all that stuff. And it is actually, once again, stacked on top of the current buffed base perk equipment drop rate. Is actually stacks on top of that. So it stacks, is not actually taking away scrap and salvage, is not taking away ammo and essence and equipment or any of that kind of stuff from other. It even stacks on top of the regular equipment drop rate. So this is literally just added. And I hope that also clears up a lot of those rumors there too. Is this worth it in the high rounds? It actually is. It drops so much equipment, shock charges, Molotovs, thermal grenades, and those thermal grenades are so good for abominations. So this is a strat. This is something that I would definitely use for higher rounds. So if you're going higher rounds, this is definitely a really, really great option. Is it a better option over Carrion Luggage and Condor's Reach? Well, I'll talk about that here shortly. Now that we got the easier to understand things out of the way, and I know this has been so much information, but VULTURE AID ties with so many different aspects of the game, perks, tacticals, equipment, ammo, all this stuff. It makes so much sense for me to be able to test everything and bring all this information out to you guys. Plus, I know that you guys love all this data. So if you're loving all this, if you've not subscribed, subscribe. If you're new here, what's up? Hi, I hope you're doing well. Hang out. kick your feet up, grab a beer, grab some coffee, right? And relax and chill out with us. It's a lot of stats and nerdy stuff going on over here. So like if that's you, give it a juicy, sexy life. All right, anyway, let's get back to it. So the very next thing that I want to talk about is Fetid Upgrade, and without going crazy into Fetid Upgrade, because there's so much with this perk, with this augment, I want to just kind of break down the questions that I had and answer them, and then give all the stats. On death, zombies have a chance to create a gas cloud that charges your field upgrade. Well, what is that chance? That chance is 5% of zombies pop that effect. How long does it last? So it takes about 1 second to start filling up your field upgrade once you're in it. And then that gas lasts for 15 total seconds. And you get 15 seconds or 15 ticks per cloud. So it's 1 tick per second. What is the charge amount for all the field upgrades? The charge amount is 1% of the circle. Just to kind of show you guys what that means. When I dive deep into exactly how much, okay, scroll in, please. Oh my, scroll. Okay, the only way to actually test exactly like how much it fills it up is crazy. So if I take all of this extra stuff away, we have what it looks like before you step into the gas. So this is just before you step to the gas. And then we have what it is afterwards, layered right on top, layer right behind it. I'm gonna lower the opacity so you guys can kind of see. So it went from here to here within about 12 ticks. And so in order to figure out, well, what exactly is that amount, because it's so difficult to figure out just how much it takes to fill up the field upgrade, what I have to do is then figure out, well, let's draw a circle around this just to make it nice and even. And then we have to segment this circle's circumference. So the area all the way around the circle, we have to segment it by this growth of 12 ticks. I hope you're still with me. So the next thing I had to do was break it down. And this right here, this little segment right here is this 12 tick segment. And so I took and copied that 12 tick segment, took it all the way around the circle to figure out exactly how much. Now, obviously down here, as you can see, this section to this section might not actually fill. I'm not sure if there's more in here, because every time I play, it looks like as soon as it fills up right here, you get the full charge, like full notification. So I don't believe that this is actually like actual space that it is using to fill. So we can kind of account for maybe a few ticks less based on this circle. Once I figured out this size right here is 12 ticks, I took it all the way around the circle to figure out exactly how many sections of 12 takes to get all the way around the circle. And with that, it actually takes a total of 8 ticks without like using anything other than just this augment. So 8 sections of 12 around this circle in order to fill up your field upgrade. Take a couple extra ticks off for this little extra space, and we get 8 times 12 is about 96. So that's just one charge. Obviously, like I needed to be able to test other charges because as you increase in rounds, it requires more field upgrade. And so the cool thing about this is that even as you increase in rounds, it still does 1% to that total circle, which means that it does not matter how many kills it takes to fill up your field upgrade. At that point, it's strictly doing 1 total percent of that charge. So next, I want to show you guys the other tests. And this is another test that I did as well. And this time, this is with 14 total ticks. And so with 14 total ticks all the way around, it took about 8 still. So that just means that it takes anywhere between 12 and 14, 15 ticks around 8 times. And to show you guys the math on that, 8 times around times 14 ticks each is about 112. So you can be sure that it's around 96 to 112 total ticks to fill up this field upgrade. The cool thing about that is with just the augment itself, that's around 100 to 112 ticks to fill up. So that's approximately 1% per tick, maybe like 0.958 or something like that as well, just depending. Again, it's so hard to be able to see and measure every little piece of that, but this is the best that we've got, right? Using that, I obviously know that many people wanted to know, like, how does this stack with Speed Colas Field Upgrade Augment? How does it stack with Supercharge? And then also, does it boost how much the kills are worth as well? First, does Supercharge with Speed Cola increase the amount of charge that this augment does? And then second, if 1 kill equals 1 tick, does 1 kill get you a little bit more than 1 tick? Speed Cola works great with them both. It actually significantly lowers the time to fill the Fetid upgrade because it fills both at the same time. So Supercharge is increasing Fetid upgrades 1% tick up to actually 1.25% per tick. And on top of that, if you're shooting and killing enemies, that's also allowing it to charge as well at the same time. So it charges significantly faster. Well, how much does it work with Speed Cola? So with Speed Cola, you guys can see here, this is where it started and this is where it ended. When I only take that little segment of fill, that little segment of fill was actually equal to 8 ticks. One little segment equals 8 ticks. Well, how many segments are there? There's 10 total ticks or 10 total segments. So this means that 11. There's 11 total segments. So this obviously means, for quick math, 8 times 11, 88. So if we count that, that means it takes about 88 total ticks with Speed Cola to get all the way around that circle. Once again, if we account for this bottom portion down here that's probably not filling, this is probably honestly around 80 to 88 ticks, which means that it does reduce the time. Like, and now I know that might seem like, well, Charming, going from like about 100 to 80 isn't really much. It is, because that 1.25% extra boost is huge. Let me show you how. So here on my visual, you can see on the left, Fetid upgrades augment, and then on the right, Speed Cola with its Supercharge augment. Pops per round. By round 20, I had maybe about 1 pop per round for Fetid upgrade here on the left. But then by round 20 with using Speed Cola, I actually had 50% more pops. So I had about 1.5 pops per round by that point in time. Now, pops per enemy always stays at 22. That's just what it is at base. And so when we break this all the way down, the actual question is, well, Charming, you can tell me all of these numbers, but what does it have to do with the amount of charges that I can get out of my perk and out of using this? So at round 20, you'll be able to get maximum 3 total pops, max 3, depending on how you min-max your kills. Because there is a stall time after that gas goes away, there's a certain amount of enemies or time that you have to last. And I believe you might have to get those total 22 enemies before the next pop, or you have to either just wait a little bit. So for instance, if it does take 22 enemies to pop this, if you get 22 enemy kills while you're standing in the gas, you will have to wait a little bit before the next gas can pop. And so because of this, you can only get maximum 3 per round for round 20 based on the amount of enemies that are on round 20. For round 30, maximum 5 pops, which again is not likely to get all 5 of those pops if you're killing those enemies really quickly. But if you're slowing them down and killing them really slowly, then you might be able to get, a higher amount of pops. And then at round 40, you can maybe get maximum 6.2 pops, regardless of whether you have a Speed Cola on or not. So what does that actually do though? Because the charge amount is higher with Speed Cola, you go from max 45% charge to your Fetid upgrade at round 20 to 56%. And as you can see here with the visual, you can see that you get much higher potential to charge up your Fetid upgrade if you stand in it immediately with Speed Cola. And that's without even looking at getting kills while you're in it. The really cool piece is that at round 40 and higher, you actually get 117% charges if you stand in all of those gases, meaning that not only will Speed Cola help you fill up your Fetid upgrade 1 total time if you're using like the extra charge, but if you do that and you're getting kills, you could potentially get that full multiple times. And so next, I want to talk to you about well, what does it actually mean? How many actual Fetid upgrade charges can you get per round? So doing this round 20, round 30, round 40, once again, if you are using Speed Cola's Supercharge augment in addition to Fetid upgrade, you will get still that 25% boost to the recharge rate. However, at round 20, if you get a maximum of 3 pops and you get an additional 24 to 44 kills. It just depends on which field upgrade you're using. Then you can get an average about 1 field upgrade charge per round. Then if you're around 30, you get max 5 pops. All you need is an additional 5 to 10 kills throughout any of that round. And you can get potentially up to 2 to maybe even 3 total field upgrade charges per round. Around 40 and above is crazy because that's where you're getting potentials. You're obviously charging up your field upgrade total with those 6.5 or 6.25% pops with that maximum 117% charge. All you need is an additional 125 kills around there, depending on, once again, the field upgrade and all these different variables. I have to take all those variables and figure out all the numbers. But you can get potentially 2 to 4 field upgrade charges per round at that point in time. Now, because of the stall in between the next one popping, that's why this is significantly shorter, because if there was no stall time, if it could go straight from one gas to the next gas and next gas, you can get potentially 7 or even 8 charges out of round 40 and above. But around round 40, you'd be able to get maybe 2 to 4. Maybe once you get around like 60 to 80, you'd be able to get like maybe 3 to 6 because the round time is so long. But if you're at that point in time, you're probably using things like the jet gun. And so you're just sucking in all the zombies and you're standing in that gas and it's just refilling up your stuff all the time anyway. So you understand that. All right, so let's get into some more stats about Fetid upgrade. So what is the width of the gas? So the width of the gas is not super forgiving at all. The concealing gas actually is super forgiving to where, like, with this one, you have to actually be inside of the gas in order to get that pop, that effect. Is it worth it in the higher rounds? This perk by itself is definitely not worth it in the higher rounds. It pops often, but not often enough to really make a difference in the amount of field upgrades that you get. And you risk getting hit so much if you're just hitting it, sitting or if you just run around, it pops and you go stand in that, you get risk getting hit so much, especially like with a lot of the weapons now, especially once you get to the high rounds. If you're using regular weapons, you're not going to be able to get enough kills. You're not going to be able to do enough damage. And it just does not make sense. Right? This is really only good for higher rounds with those regular bullet weapons in order to just kind of get an early start on your field upgrade. Now, that's if you have this augment at the launch of your match. If you're playing on a Citadel, you won't be able to get the perk until around 8-ish. So by then, your augment will need probably used for other reasons. And then also, if you're on the 2 launch maps, you won't even be able to get it until you're around 25 once the Wonder Fist comes. So at that point in time, it's not even worth to be able to have this on unless you are using this for a high round strat and you are using the speed code Supercharge augment and you're using a weapon that can get a lot of kills really quickly, like the jet gun or the ray gun. This really makes this a really great augment for high rounding, especially with like the jet gun, like with those weapons. Some other test results that I got: field upgrades can also pop the effect. Molotovs, equipment can pop the effect. Anything that kills enemies can pop the effect because this field upgrade is not attached to your weapon. So anything you have that can kill enemies can pop the effect. Fetid upgrade was a lot. Up next, let's talk about Smell of Death's gas as well. So with Smell of Death, this one is a lot simpler. Smell of Death doesn't incorporate a whole lot of different things. The biggest thing that I want to talk about is some of the easy stats. And some of those easy stats is just that, like, with Smell of Death, right, you get a 2.5% chance to create that gas cloud that conceals you. That just means out of 200 enemies, 5 enemies pop that trigger. So, or trigger that pop. So like it takes double the amount of enemies instead of like versus Fetid upgrade, which only takes about, whatever. So with 2.5% of zombies popping that effect, how long does this last? So it actually only lasts for 5 seconds. But that 5 seconds is enough time for almost most weapons to be able to fully plate. If you did not watch my speed cola video, if you did not watch my speed cola deep dive, it actually takes, in order to fill up 3 total plates, just under about 3 total seconds if we account for plate activation time, recovery, and plate stall time. And I'll link the video up here so you guys can be able to go watch that if you have not already seen that. But it takes almost just under 3 seconds. And then most weapons, especially if you're using classic formula, most weapons reload time is going to honestly be below 2 seconds. So that's a total of enough time to be able to reload and fill up your armor in that time of Smell of Death's 5 seconds happening. Now, the issue with Smell of Death's concealed gas is that the gas is not as prominent as Fetid Upgrade. So you cannot see the gas as easily. Now, some of my numbers here might even be a little bit skewed because it might be really difficult to see that gas. And also that gas looks just like the plague gas whenever the parasites shoot something at you. So a lot of times it's one of two things. You can't see the gas, and you confuse the gas with the gas from the plague, from the plague gas from the parasites. And you go and try and stand in that, which doesn't conceal you. And then it potentially can probably get you killed. So be very wary of that. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that. This is like, it's a really strong augment. Why? Because like, it's great in high rounds if you can see it, but it is more effective because it can distract any enemies in that area. And enemies actually completely ignore you and instantly sprint away as soon as you get into the gas. If you shoot an enemy in a crowd and you identify that the gas is there and you sprint to the gas, even with all the enemies in the middle of that area, they will completely ignore you and run away. All enemies, regardless of whatever type it is, even main Easter egg boss fights. So let's go ahead and put this against Fetid Upgrade to figure out which one of these are going to be better for you. So when it comes to pops per enemy, with the concealed gas, you get about 1 in every 40 zombies, versus with field upgrade gas, you get about 1 in every 5. The pop chance 2.5 versus 5%. But you get, when it comes to maximum uses, so I want to talk about maximum uses. So the uses, you get 1.5 uses at round 20 from concealed gas versus 1 use of your field upgrade gas at round 20. You get 2.5 pops or uses out of the concealed gas around 30, and then 3, just a little over 3 around 40, and then you get 2 to 3 and 2 to 4 for round 30 and round 40 respectively, field upgrade gas. Which means that on average, you're getting about the same usage out of both of these gases. So really, it's completely up to you. If you're talking lower rounds, field upgrade gas is going to be really fun. Concealed gas is going to be really fun. Either way, you're going to get the same amount of uses regardless of whatever it is that you're using for this. One is not more overpowered than the other. It's strictly based on your playstyle. And lastly, we finally have Carrion Luggage. Critical kills have a chance to drop extra scrap. Well, what is the current crit kill scrap rate or salvage drop rate? Critical kills don't have any effect at all on dropping extra salvage. It only matters from the kills. Now, only for the purpose of testing and just to know, we can tell that about 21% of crits that you get will drop salvage without having this augment on. Once again, that actually has no effect, and that number is just based on like how many crits I got from each enemy and like how much scrap I got from killing only the enemies that I had crits on. But once again, that has no effect at all. What is the boost amount? So the crit to salvage ratio is about 29% of crit kills actually drop scrap. This is huge because this means that on top of the regular scrap rate that you're getting, you're also getting an additional 1 out of every 3 critical kills that you get is going to drop scrap. Is this impacted by armored zombies, pests, special, elites, or any of that kind of stuff? No, if you get a critical kill on them, it also has a high chance of 1 out of 3 chance of dropping scrap as well. And then also, does this stack with the base perk? Once again, a lot of people think that using this takes away from, the extra ammo and the extra essence that drops. Once again, it does not. This actually stacks. This is added to the current drop amount as well. So obviously, the next question is, which one is better, Carrion Luggage or the Suppressor? Now, obviously, you guys can use both. Like, there's no reason not to use both unless you want to save an attachment slot on your weapon, or if you want to use a different miner, you can use Condor's Reach to get more auto loot from somewhere else, right? Or if you want to use Picky Eater. It depends on you. So when we talk about the Suppressor versus Carrion Luggage, so for enemies, obviously Carrion Luggage doesn't have an effect for salvage per enemy, but if you do have Carrion Luggage on, you still will get scrap from killing enemies. You get 24% of salvage from the Suppressor using the Suppressor on your weapon per enemy versus Carrion Luggage is going to be just slightly under. But when it comes to salvage per crit kill, the Suppressor doesn't give you extra salvage per critical kill. However, If we are talking about trying to compare it, it gives you 28% versus Carrion Luggage giving you 29%, because that's what its job is. The suppressor is just that good at getting extra salvage. So when it comes to the earlier rounds, if you have Vulture Aid on immediately as you spawn in, like you use Perkaholic, then you actually see a boost, because you can get more critical kills. And since Carrion Luggage is more effective at critical kills than Suppressor is at dropping salvage, then you might see like a green rarity upgrade at round 5, which is 1 round earlier than the Suppressor. However, in the later rounds, let's talk getting you to orange tier rarity, the Suppressor is going to do better because you're likely not getting as much critical kills in those later rounds. Your crit kill ratio drops down significantly as you get into higher rounds. And so because of that, the Suppressor is going to do better because it shines better at, once again, salvage per enemy instead of crits. And so if you're going high rounds, the Suppressor is going to be your better friend. But if you're staying in that round, like up to like around 20 and 30, maybe even 40, then the Carrion Luggage is going to be be better for you. Whew. So all of this information today, I want to know in the comment section, what is the most important augments for you? What type of gameplay do you guys have? What did I not mention? What corrections did I need to make? I did do a lot of testing and studying of all of this stuff, and I'm looking forward to all of you guys' feedback in the comment section down below. Over the last few weeks, our community has grown by almost 500-600 different subscriptions, and we've gotten so many different views, so many different comments. I mean, we've gotten thousands of views on a couple different videos, and that's huge. And so I'd love to know your guys' feedback on the information I presented today. The next augment the next perk that we're gonna attack is gonna be Jug, and I've got a lot of different questions. So with that, I do post community posts asking for what things do you guys want me to specifically test. So you can also let me know in the comment section down below, or whenever I post that community post, what questions do you have about Jug, about armor, and about how all of that works? Let me know, because I want to make sure that I'm testing also things that you guys want me to test. Today was full of questions that you guys as a community wanted me to test and figure out. So I hope I answered all of those questions for you guys. But with all of this being said, guys, if you have not seen my top 10 favorite Black Ops 6 Zombies weapon loadouts, you definitely need to check it out. I break down some easy stats about a lot of the different weapons, and there's a lot of feedback that we got on that video as well. Check that video out right here, and you guys have a beautiful goddamn day. Happy holidays, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.